Last October, I went to a pumpkin patch with my friends. We thought it would be all fun and laughter. But what we found there still haunts me every October night. Something was watching us, and it wasn't human. Last October, I went to a pumpkin patch with my friends. It was right after school, and the air was cold and crisp. The leaves were orange and yellow, and the ground was covered in fallen leaves. We had been looking forward to this all week. The patch was small but busy. Families were walking around, kids were running with their parents, and the smell of baked goods from a small stand filled the air. We parked and grabbed a small wagon to carry our pumpkins. There were rows of pumpkins everywhere, big and small. We walked down one row and found some nice pumpkins to pick. Everything felt normal at first. My friend Kevin dared me to pick the biggest pumpkin at the back of the patch, the one near a little wooded area. I laughed and agreed. The path to the pumpkin was narrow. The further we went, the fewer people we saw. The laughter and chatter from the main area faded behind us. I noticed the trees around us were thick, and the shadows were long in the late afternoon sunlight. The wind made the leaves rustle. It sounded like whispers. I tried not to think about it. When we reached the pumpkins, I noticed something strange. Behind the pumpkins near the trees, there was a figure. At first, I thought it was a scarecrow. It was standing very still with a hat on, and its arms were out like a cross. But then I realized it was too thin to be a scarecrow. And the hat moved slightly, like someone breathing under it. "Do you guys see that?" I whispered. Kevin turned and looked, but shrugged. "Probably just a decoration," he said. I wasn't sure. I had a bad feeling in my stomach. I picked up the pumpkin quickly, trying not to stare. The figure didn't move from beyond the tree. It just stayed there. We started walking back to the main area, but I kept glancing over my shoulder. The figure seemed closer. I couldn't tell if it was moving or if my eyes were playing tricks on me. Kevin noticed I was acting weird. "Stop looking back," he said, laughing. I didn't want to. Something about it made my skin crawl. When we reached the edge of the pumpkin rows, I turned to get one last look. The figure was gone. I felt a small sense of relief, thinking maybe it was just a person walking behind the trees or someone's costume. We headed toward the stand to pay for our pumpkins. The path was darker now. The sun was almost gone and the shadows were thick. As we passed the wooded area again, I heard a crack, like a branch snapping. Kevin didn't hear it. I stopped and said, "Did you hear that?" He shook his head. I turned slowly, and my heart stopped. The figure was there again, about 10 feet behind us. No arms out this time. It was just standing. Kevin noticed I stopped moving and asked what's wrong. I tried to speak, but my throat felt dry. The figure started to tilt its head, like it was studying us. Then, without moving its legs, it started to move forward. It didn't even look like it was walking. It was gliding, almost floating over the leaves. I grabbed Kevin's arm and we ran toward the stand. Our pumpkins bounced in the wagon as we ran. I could hear leaves crunching behind us, faster than they should have if it was just walking. When we reached the main area, people were still there laughing and eating. I looked back. The figure stopped at the edge of the pumpkin rows. It just stood there and watched. We paid for our pumpkins and got in the car as fast as we could. I didn't look back again. On the drive home, I told Kevin to promise me he didn't see anyone like that. He said he didn't, that he only saw the pumpkins and the trees. But I knew I hadn't imagined it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that figure, the way it moved, the way it glided. I tried to convince myself it was just a Halloween prank, but that was a family-friendly pumpkin patch, too scary for little kids. A few days later, I read online that someone else had reported seeing a strange person in a costume at the same pumpkin patch. They said it was late afternoon near the trees, and the person didn't move or speak like a normal human. The story didn't give names or faces, just the report. I haven't gone back to that patch since. Every October, when the leaves start falling and the air gets cold, I remember that figure. I remember the way it moved. And I still think, if it had wanted to, it could have followed us all the way to the car. I tell this story to friends, but most think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I can still picture it standing behind those trees, watching us,